Well, hello everybody. How are you doing? I certainly hope you're doing good. And I tell you what, I'm doing good myself. And let me tell you why I'm doing good. I mean, the weather is nice and look here. We are now in the month of June, the 6th month of the year. Can you believe that? I tell you, 2025 will be out of here before you know it. It's going by so fast. My goodness. I mean, it just seems like it was only yesterday when we were saying Happy New Year and all that kind of stuff. And now here we are getting ready for summer. Summer begins this month and we got Father's Day in this month. And of course, about Flag Day and all that kind of stuff. And my aunt's birthday this month. She'll be 72 years old. So that's a blessing. and a whole lot more. So I tell you what, we have a lot to be grateful for as we proceed through the month of June. So I would like to thank you very much for tuning in today. I am so grateful to you for that. And I would like to welcome all of you to another episode of TJ's Topics. And of course, I happen to be TJ. And once again, it is a pleasure to be with all of you. I consider it a joy, an honor, and a privilege to be able to come into your presence on any given occasion. Now, I do have a very good topic that I would like to share with you today, and it could very well be one that either you can relate to with respect to either having already dealt with it, currently dealing with it, or perhaps will be dealing with it in the future. And that is taking care of your aging parents. And I discussed this once before, but I didn't quite go in real deep with it. I didn't go in depth the last time. So I want to talk a little more about that this time. And perhaps we can get into more details as to just how challenging taking care of your aging parents can be. And so my topic is your children are not your guaranteed caregivers. That is what we're talking about today. Your children are not your guaranteed caregivers. And why would I say that? Well, I want you to think about something. And for those of you who are watching who may have kids, some of you may have the idea or perhaps the belief that your children will automatically want to take care of you should you become disabled or physically handicapped, develop some type of mental issues, like dementia, Alzheimer's, what have you. You think that your children are going to be there for you. That's a very nice thing to consider. You think that that may be the case, but I'm here to tell you it may not. And there are multiple reasons why no parent should build all their hopes up on and around the fact that they have children. They think that just because they took care of them when they were babies, that automatically means that their children are going to take care of them in their old age. Well, parents, for those of you who are out there watching, I want you to think again. You may want to think again because there is no guarantee that your children are going to be there for you if and when that occasion arises. I want you to think about that. Now, there are many reasons why your children may not make the best caregivers and, in essence, won't be your caregivers. Let's begin with reason number one: difficulty in accepting a change in the dynamics of the relationship. You know, when parents are raising their kids, it's expected of them to nurture and love and care for the children because they're the ones who brought them into this world. And it is the parents' responsibility to take care of their children. Otherwise, they could be charged with neglect, and maltreatment and a whole bunch of other things if they fail to do so. The DHS could come in and remove the children from the home, put them in foster care or anything, simply because the parents failed at upholding their duties. They didn't do what they were supposed to do by their children. But on the other hand, when it comes to children taking care of their parents, now that's another story, because the parents have been adults for a whole lot longer than the children have. And, well, it's different. There's a huge difference between parents taking care of children and children taking care of parents. When parents are raising kids, you have to potty train them, you got to feed them, bathe them, and, brush their hair, brush their teeth, all sorts of things. But they're kids, so, they can't do for themselves. But now, what if when the tables are turned and the children are now having to do all that for their parents? That can present a great deal of a challenge. I mean, it can be very challenging, because it's one thing for parents to clean their little baby's boo-boo and the babies are cute. But when children got to clean their parents' boo-boo, change their parents' diapers, that's totally different from parents changing the little baby's diapers. I mean, they pee-pee, they poo-poo. Come on now, the kids, they little babies. But now, doing that, children having to do that for an elderly parent, oh Lord, that would be very difficult. And most children are just not mentally, emotionally, or physically capable of doing that. Number two, they may not have had the best relationship. See, that's another thing you got to look at. I might should have put that for reason number one, because what if parents were abusive towards their kids? They dogged them out, mistreated them, talked bad to them and bad about them while they were growing up. And now they're gotten old, they're sick and not able to do for themselves anymore. They have lost all sense of independence. And now they're reaching out to their kids thinking that they're going to come along and they expect their children to forget all about the way they treated them when they were children. Forget all about the way the parents cussed their children out, knocked them upside the head, beat them half to death, and perhaps did like Penny's mama did on Good Times, burn them with a hot iron or, or anything else. They're supposed to forget that, act like it never happened, and come in and rescue their ailing parents. And then you got some parents who will try to hold the Bible over them. They may be those type of parents. honor thy father and thy mother, so that your days may be long upon the earth. Well, the children may have done that when they were kids, and some of them still try to do that as adults. But the dynamics are different now. You know, the parents are not raising the kids anymore. Therefore, those children, they're not obligated to come and see about them now. They can if they want to, but if they had such a terrible relationship throughout the child's early years, don't think that they've forgotten it. Most likely they have not. Number 3, the inability to afford quitting their jobs in order to look after their parents full time. Most people cannot afford to just walk away from their jobs. I don't care how much money they have saved, what they do. They can't afford to quit their jobs. Even if they get lucky and hit the jackpot, they might can work more leisurely in that aspect, but quitting altogether, no. They're not retirement age, and therefore they can't draw retirement. They can't. No, the children are not going to quit their jobs just to see after their parents. No, because think about it. Their parents didn't quit their jobs when they were raising them to see after them. No. So parents shouldn't expect their children to walk away from their careers in order to take care of them. If anything, they're going to end up in a nursing home. And see, the thing about the nursing home is they don't love your parents. You know, they don't love their patients in there. Only thing they're doing is getting paid to take care of them and keep them comfortable until they die. That's all the nursing home is. That's all they do. But as far as showing love and compassion, respect and admiration towards those patients, nah, it's just a paycheck. That's it. Just to keep them comfortable until they close their eyes for good. That's it. Number 4, the lack of proper training in medical situations. That's something that most kids don't have. And I, for one, definitely don't have. If my parents, if they, get to where they can't take care of themselves anymore, I don't know what to do because I'm not trained in the medical field. I don't have any medical training, any degrees, certification. Therefore, I wouldn't know what to do except call 911 if there's a medical emergency. Try to do a little something for them there in the house if I could, depending on what was there in the house and what was available to me at the time, and try to seek some help for them. But I can't take care of them, and I'm definitely not in a position to quit my job to take care of them. So God forbid, pray nothing happens. Because if it did, well, I would just have to, try to put them in a nursing home and do something and let them see after them until the end. And I'm sure most of you are the same way. And think about, here's another thing I want you to think about when it comes to parents taking care of the kids. Okay, now, if you're a man like myself, now you know for a fact that you would not want to, you wouldn't even feel right trying to bathe your mother if she's in a position where she's no longer able to bathe herself. As a man, you as a son would not feel right bathing your mother. Now, your wife, that's different because that's a different dynamic. That's a different type of relationship. You obey your wife and care for her in that manner, but you don't feel right bathing your mother. Same thing. Okay, a daughter trying to bathe her father, he's responsible for his daughter being here. And now she's got to look at all of his privates, and she got to bathe and stuff. Now, mind you, she came, from that now. I mean, he fathered her. And now it would be one thing if she was bathing her husband, because that's a different dynamic. That's a different type of relationship. But a father, and I know there are women who will do that for their fathers. There are. But now for a man, it would be more difficult for him to bathe his mother because, I mean, he came out of his mother. And that's not kind of, no, I mean, but not to each his own. I mean, you do what you want to do, but mm-mm. that I just couldn't see that being for me. Number 5, the mental, emotional, and physical strain that taking care of aging and dying parents can present. Look, you already go through enough in life from day to day on your job and in various relationships in different capacities. And then to have to take on the responsibility of caring for your parents, and your parents, they're no longer able to do for themselves, and that they only have a very limited time left to be here, and you have been thrust into that position. Now, what if you're the only child? And or you may not be the only child, but you're the only child who who has enough compassion for their parents, because all the other kids out there doing God knows what, running around in the street and doing everything else. I mean, man, I just, that can take a huge toll on a person mentally, emotionally, and physically, to the point where they're going to need some care at some point. If if they got to keep going through all of that, that can be tiresome on a person. It really can. Number 6, not having adequate living space for additional residents in your home. Now, say that you live in a small house or an apartment. Like, you know, I have a 1-bedroom apartment. Some of you may have a 1-bedroom apartment or a small place, maybe it may be a 2-bedroom house or apartment, but it's still not enough space to bring in your parents, you know, whether it's one parent or both. You don't have enough room. And say if you already have a child, you may have a child, perhaps you have a spouse or a partner living with you, and then there's your parents, either one or both, and they're no longer able to stay at home by themselves to take care of themselves. They have lost all sense of independence. And now you got to try to figure out what to do with them. And you hate some children don't want to put their parents in the nursing home because they know that nursing homes a lot of times don't care. They'll do whatever the hell they want to your parents. And unless you have the time and the patience to go down there and see about them on a daily or a weekly basis, on a regular basis, anything can happen to your parents in the nursing home. So therefore they choose to bring them home with them. But if you don't have the space for them, they got to have space for their clothes and all their personal belongings and stuff. Well, certain things anyway, because they can't bring everything in the house, so they got to leave some stuff behind. Man, I'm telling you, that would be awful. And you got to deal with that. And you don't know how long they're going to be there because you don't know how much longer they got left to live. Some of you may be hoping that it's not too long because, I mean, you be setting yourself up for, who knows, months or even years of devastation trying to do all that by yourself. And finally, number 7, truth is, it's not the responsibility of the children to care for their sick parents. Now, that may sound harsh. It may sound, rather sad or disappointing, lack of concern, unconcerned or whatever, but it's the truth anyhow. I mean, If you know that you don't have the ability to do that, all of what is going to be required of you to care for your parents, why take that responsibility on? I mean, it would be best to let someone else have that responsibility. You know, a paid caretaker, someone who does that for a living, bring in a home health nurse or someone who is capable of doing that. They have the proper training, in medical field and stuff, and you don't. So therefore, don't even take that responsibility on yourself if you know you're not able. There are many factors to consider when it comes to caring for our aging and ailing parents. Number one, individual circumstances. Financial situations, that's one. Family dynamics. And the health needs of the parents, because you don't know what all that's going to entail. So those are things you have to think about. Number two, cultural and societal expectations. One's culture may be the determining factor on whether children willingly take on the responsibility of caring for their aging parents. Society tends to play a significant role in that decision as well. Sometimes, depending on what cultural background you came from, like, for example, Asians, most times they willingly care for their parents. China, Japan, all those Asian countries, they'll do that. Even some African countries. But now here in the United States of America, you may have some, but not too many people are willing to take on that responsibility. And that's just keeping it real. Because we got too many things to do, and we got our own lives to live. So don't let them try to run that guilt trip on you, because you got some parents who will. Well, just do what you can. And number three, communication and planning. Certain things need to be discussed prior to anything happening to your parents, including the potential for your parents to need around the clock care. Along with that, living arrangements, which we just discussed. Also, it wouldn't hurt to start planning for when your parents make their transition. In other words, when it's time for them to get up out of here. All those things need to be discussed long before the parents get sick, become disabled, handicapped, whatever. Things need to be put in place. A succession plan. All those different things need to be put in place long before anything like this happens. But we find a lot of times where parents fail to take care of their business, and they wait until the last minute, and then something does happen, and by then it's too late. And they leave the children scrambling, trying to figure out what in the world are they going to do. And it's not the children's responsibility. It's that of the parents, because they had the time and the ability to get all that stuff put in place before they became ill. And if they didn't do it before then, well, that's too bad. So anyway, I'm sorry for being this long. I try not to be too long, but this is a very serious topic. One that I felt like needed to be shared, because I know many of you out there have aging parents. I have aging parents. And so, these are things that we have to consider, because, they're not going to be around forever. None of us will, for that matter. And so these things need to be talked about and planned for well in advance. So I want to thank you very much for tuning in today to this episode of TJ's Topics. I really do appreciate it. And be sure to tune in again next time if you can. And feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Share with whoever you wish, because I do believe that there are many others out there who will find this information very helpful. This is Taryn Jerome Harris, reminding you that every round goes higher and higher. Look forward to seeing you again soon. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.